Hi everyone, so today the Sergei Skripal poisoning is major news again, although it hasn't been out the news over the last few weeks to be honest, but it's reached a different level today. And this is from the Express in the UK, and it's pretty much in every newspaper to be honest, the Telegraph, the Daily Mail, every right-wing newspaper. I quote, "British spies will launch a counter-propaganda war against the Russians as part of a major overhaul of the UK's security capabilities announced by Theresa May. The Prime Minister has instructed the intelligence services to use social media to disrupt misinformation as she promised to use every capability at our disposal to defeat the new threat facing Britain." Okay, the worrying part on that is the social media angle. Well, I'll carry on reading this story. We'll get to what I think at the end. As well as increased Russian aggression. Really? Increased Russian aggression? What increased Russian aggression? The increased aggression seems to be coming from the West, to be honest, to people who can look at this objectively. But anyway. Sources warn the Islamist terror threat is likely to rise in the next 2 years as Mrs May revealed a major new effort to ensure every government agency and department views national security as their priority rather than just police and security services. The plan, dubbed the Fusion Doctrine, aims to tackle the evolving threats posed by cyber warfare and so-called fake news as well as bombs. Security experts on Tuesday warned President Putin's government, as people keep reminding me, government has pumped out over 20 different stories to explain the Salisbury attack so far in a bid to confuse the picture and confuse the charge sheet. No, they haven't. They haven't pumped out over 20 different stories to... They're making out as if it's fake news, and they're not. They're just saying, well, it wasn't us. Here's what could have happened. This is how it happens in a court of law. You accuse somebody of doing something, and then the other side says, well, it could have been any of these things. And at that case, in that instance, when there's no actual evidence to say that the person who is accused of doing whatever it is that they're being accused of is guilty, then the case gets thrown out. That's the way it works. And they're trying to say, oh, they're muddying the waters here. No, they're not. They're just defending their position. They said the UK's soft power capabilities and ability to counter propaganda online will form part of the new front line. It came as the head of the RAF warned the UK will soon be forced to defend itself in space following claims that Russia could attempt to sabotage undersea cables which connect the UK to vital power supplies from Europe. Now that last paragraph there, they said, confuse the picture and confuse the charge sheet. They said the UK's soft power capabilities and ability to counter propaganda online. Where's the propaganda there? Is the propaganda online, or is the propaganda saying sources and claims that Russia could attempt to sabotage undersea cables? Where the did that come from? Where's the propaganda there? Is that Russia propaganda, or is that propaganda from the British? I don't know which I think. The propaganda isn't coming from Russia either. This propaganda that they, so-called propaganda that they say. Where it's coming from is people like me who are saying, where's the evidence? The same as in America, when all the people who, on the left and right, who can look at things objectively, said, well, where's the evidence of Trump being Putin's puppet? Where's the evidence of the collusion with Russia? Show us the evidence. Okay, they didn't do that. It's coming from people like me and people like Craig Murray. Craig Murray used to be the ambassador to Uzbekistan, and Uzbekistan, as you probably know, was part of the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union broke up, Uzbekistan was in a mess. And Uzbekistan is where this Novichok agent was stored and being developed. And oligarchs came in and just ripped everything in Uzbekistan apart and sold it off for pieces. It was in a complete mess. And by the time the West got in there, it was just too late. I mean, the Novichok could be bloody anywhere throughout the world by then. And it also can be made anywhere, as Craig Murray explains in this interview with RT.
Look, we keep hearing, don't we, that Russia is guilty of this attack, but you say, when you look closely at the language used by the British government to back up these claims, it's deliberately vague and misleading. Can you just explain what you mean?
Yes, the language used has been very carefully formulated because the scientists at the UK's laboratory at Porton Down, which handles chemical weapons, refused to say this nerve agent was made in Russia. The British government put them under heavy pressure to say this nerve agent was made in Russia, and they said there's no evidence it's made in Russia. So in the end, a formula was agreed, which was that the nerve agent is of a type developed by Russia. Now, what does that mean? It's very interesting because the NATO communique said it was of a type developed by Russia. May said in Parliament it was of a type developed by Russia. The UK said to the UN Security Council it was of a type developed by Russia. And today, if you look at the EU statement, it says it is of a type developed by Russia. They always use exactly the same formulation. Well, antibiotics were developed here in Edinburgh first. Penicillin is of a type developed by Scotland, but it doesn't mean all penicillin is made in Scotland. And the use of language you have to be very, very careful with, because they've never said this nerve agent was made in Russia or produced in Russia or manufactured in Russia. All they say all the time is it is of a type developed by Russia. But the alleged chemical formula for producing Novichok was published. You can buy it from Amazon. It was published 12 years ago in a book. And the Iranians, with OPCW supervision, synthesized Novichoks in 2016. So many people can make this. The fact is, of a type originally developed by Russia, if that is true, is nothing to do with it.
And he's right. The government, everybody, the government, the EU, they're all saying exactly the same thing. Of a type developed in Russia. First of all, that's wrong. It's not of a type developed in Russia. It's of a type developed in the Soviet Union. And those two things are totally different. As Craig knows well, he was ambassador to Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan was part of the Soviet Union, not part of Russia at all. And that's where this Novichok agent was developed. And they're just parroting the same thing over and over again. And it's clear as day to people, anybody who can look at this objectively. It's clear as day that this is 100% manufactured bullshit. It's 100%. This article goes on to say, security sources told The Telegraph that the threat from nations like Russia and North Korea can no longer be tackled by traditional response from the military or security services, and every department, including the Environment Agency and HMRC, must play a role. The UK must also employ soft power and counter-propaganda on social media, including suffocating hashtags on Twitter to prevent ISIL from getting the messaging out and disseminating alternative narratives online. Why are they talking about ISIL? They're blaming ISIL for all this. We're not doing it because of Russia. No. We're not suffocating these Russian hashtags because of Russia. We're doing it because of ISIL. Can you see what they're doing here? Boosting the role of the BBC's World Service to promote British values abroad, ensuring Ofcom shuts down media organisations which do not meet high British standards, and funding limits to counter fake news, all part of the plan. Step by step by step, just as I said in the video I did about this poisoning a few weeks ago, they are going to follow this plan to the T that was done in America when they said, they put out the story that Trump was Putin's puppet, and then they carried on with it. And you can see there, they're going to suffocate the hashtags on Twitter. They're going to get Twitter to suffocate them the same way that Twitter did, if you remember, in 2016, by suffocating and hiding the hashtag, any hashtag to do with pedestal emails. They've admitted that. And they're going to do exactly the same thing, just as I predicted. They're going to follow this pattern. And also, now they're going to say, oh, we're going to shut down media organisations. What does that tell you? That means RT and Sputnik are going to have to register as a foreign agent, exactly the same as happened in America. I said that this was going to happen, and I'm tooting my own horn. I'm absolutely right. But then again, you probably all thought the same thing as well. It's obvious that this was going to happen. They are following the pattern of America to a T. You pump out a story without evidence that gets the whole media talking about it. The media parrots it, the story as 100% true without evidence at all, and giving no airtime to any evidence that counters the narrative. And by countering the narrative, in America, for instance, there was the VIPs, the Veterans Intelligence Professionals for Sanity Findings. Everybody in independent media were talking about it because it basically said, hey, your story that the DNC was hacked is not true. But the media, the corporate media, didn't talk about that at all, and neither are any of the papers over here talking about Craig Murray or the fact that they're all doing this same or other type developed in Russia. They're not saying that at all. The BBC and all the online media, they're all doing exactly the same thing as happened in America. Exactly. It is so obvious. It's pathetic what they're doing. And now they're going to go down exactly the same route as they did in America by silencing any online critics of it, by silencing hashtags on social media, and then they're going to try and shut down RT and Sputnik. Exactly the same as they did in America again. We've got to get the word out, and we've got to make sure that the other voice, the other side of this is heard. So you've got to share videos like this on social media. You've got to share Craig Murray's articles. Have a look at his website. He has surgically dismantled the the argument that the British government are portraying. That he's dismantled their story. The way he's took down Boris Johnson is hilarious, and I love his analogy in that video that I showed earlier about penicillin of a type developed in Scotland. I love that analogy because that is exactly exactly what Britain are doing here with Russia, and they're even just trying to blame now ISIS and ISIL. Oh no, we're doing it because of ISIL. It's rubbish. So please share this video, like it, subscribe. Please hit the bell as well, otherwise you won't get a notification. They will hide the video. I've just said they're going to suffocate hashtags, going to suffocate social media. Please share it wherever you can. Click the bell. And if you can, support me on Patreon. A couple of dollars a month, whatever it is. If enough people do it, I'll be able to continue doing this full time. And I think it's really a good cause. And I know the majority of the people watching it agree with me. So thanks for watching. Please don't believe the bullshit that the governments are putting out there. And until next time, peace and take care.